Today we're going to be ranking every single talisman in Hypixel Skyblock, and for reference we're only going to be ranking all the max versions of each talisman, and there's no particular criteria, only based on how much I like it and how easy it is to get. So either way, let's get into it. But quickly before we start, I want to remind you to make sure to leave a like and subscribe on the video and comment down what your favorite talismans are in the description below, and that we have a 20 million coin giveaway in my Discord link in the description going on if you want to be notified of any future videos. Okay, so we're going to be starting off with the Respiration Artifact, and I think this is going to be put in the C tier just because it takes a lot of time to get it going through the rift, having to get to a mountaintop, and the same case can be said with the 2 IQ points as well, just because you have to go through so much time, and then you have to get all the way there, and it just takes a while to get. But compared to Hocus Pocus Cypher, Hocus Pocus Cypher, dude, I can't... Compared to the Hocus Pocus Cypher, this will go in the F tier. You get from the Dark Auction, it doesn't provide much, and it's just very useless. But the Vampire Dentist Relic Hand is a legendary talisman. It is a very good ability that basically allows you to double your healing and significantly buffs your vitality. And with the future calories, these talisman, this is just not a good one either. You get this from the Rift stuff auction type thingy, similar to Shen's auction where you bet with moats, and it's just not that good for when you get it. But compared to the Bluetooth ring, I'd say this goes to about the B tier, or simply because it's a decent talisman. It's not that hard to get. You get from Living Metal Hearts, and it's very easy to craft. But with the Rift Prism, this is an F, despite the fact that it does give you infinite usages, as it can be good for money. For Iron Man, it's just not that worth getting, and it just takes way too long to get, even on a normal profile. And with now we have the bane of my existence, the Tiny Dancer. This one, we're gonna create a new thing for this, and we're just gonna name it Super F. Just because this is the worst. It's way too hard, it takes way too much practice. If you agree with me, you know what I'm talking about. And then we got all the other talismans, which are significantly easier, and while they don't put any useful stuff, they're just so easy to get, and they're just 3 free talismans. They deserve to go in B tier. And then of course we got the Blood Dawn Artifact. This is a good talisman, like it's a decent talisman, though it takes way too long to get that. I think it should just go into the D tier with the Future Calories talisman. And now we have the Blue Tooth Ring, which I mean, oh wait a minute, I added an extra talisman. So we're just gonna ignore that for a second, and we're just gonna move on to a Garamu Artifact, which a Garamu Artifact doesn't really provide that much uses, but it's still pretty easy to get as well. So I think this goes in the C tier. And same with Lush Artifact, except you only have to put a minion down for this. It's not that hard to get. It does, however, take a while with only 1 minion though. So I think it also should just go as C tier. However, we do have the Emperor Artifact now here, which involves fishing in Galatea 4, which it's also just takes forever to get, and it's just super expensive. It's just not worth getting. So I think this should go at D tier. It's not quite F tier because it's not quite pointless, but it's just not the best. But of course we have the Glacial. With the Glacial Talismans, again, a pretty free talisman. Even when you get to Glacial Artifact, it's just a free talisman, which most of the free talismans I'm just going to put in B tier, or just because they're not useful, but they're not the worst. And of course, we now have Fermento Artifact, which for a rare talisman, I think is kind of just weird that's only rare, given that it takes 9 condensed Fermento to make, only for a rare talisman. And so it's just, it's not like bad to get though, since you can get it just while farming, and it's not overly expensive. So I think it's just fine chilling in the C tier. And then the Draconic Artifact is not that bad. It's just decently expensive and has not really that much use. So I think that just goes in the C tier as well, because it's not like a free talisman, but it's not like the worst either. Compared to the Infernal Kundra Core, which it takes so much time to get, and it's so expensive. But I'm trying to remember what it does again. And I'm really trying to remember what the Infernal Kundra Core, again, let me pull it up real quick. Oh, that's right. It gives 3 Hunter Fortune. For a legendary talisman that you have to do Infernal Kudra and get a bunch of Fiery Kudra, of course, to get it. It's even for the Hunter Fortune, it's just not really that worth. So it goes in D tier. And then, of course, the Pulse Ring, which a Pulse Ring I actually like since you can upgrade it just passively with, like, Thunderstorm abilities. And you do have to carry around Thunder Bottles for a while, but it's still just a pretty easy talisman to get. It just is a passive talisman to upgrade. That's just not that expensive. So I think it still goes into B tier, and we haven't really cracked, like, any A tier talismans, just because there's not really, like, any talismans I think are really worth it. But of course, then we get the Blaze Talisman. The Blaze Talisman is an actually decent talisman, just because the Blaze Talisman gives you defense against blazes, which not many talismans or items really give you that much defense against blazes, and can be decently useful during blaze. So I think it goes in A, just because it's also pretty cheap to craft as well. And then we get the Book of Progression, which the Book of Progression, this is one of my favorite talismans, just because it's literally just a free mythic talisman the more you upgrade it. And it can be upgraded to give you even more damage as well. So I think this is a good S tier talisman. And then we get Shen's Regalia. Shen's Regalia is not quite S tier, but I don't think it's deserving of B, because yes, while it is expensive, it gives you access to some items that are pretty useful. Well, like Divine Gift, which gives you additional magic find, and a couple other items, I don't remember what they are. But for its price, I still think it deserves an A. Because it also is a legendary talisman. And same with Pandora's Box, just because Pandora's Box is a good thing to do if you're ever, like, bored in the game. It gives you a bunch of challenges that you can do to upgrade the talisman, and for essentially free, though it does take a good amount of time, though. Oh, and then we got literally the most pointless legendary talisman. And that costs way too much money, in my opinion. And well, yes, it is meant to be like a final boss type talisman, in where you're supposed to spend a few billion coins on it in Shen's auction. Its ability of only giving you twice the amount of votes in an election is so useless. Like, why? It doesn't give you anything else other than that. It's just pointless. It's especially for 4 mil. And now this is a hot topic, I think, just because, I mean, it's just not really worth getting for me. But if you see a point in getting it, go right ahead. It's just, I would personally get this talisman last. And now with Dwarven Mail Talisman, this one's kind of just a middle of the road. Like, it's a good talisman. And it's middle of the road. It gives you some Dwarven Mail of Fortune. But it's just, it's not that free, but it's also not that expensive. But I think it's pretty decent for where you get it. And of course, the Relic of Power. I like the Relic of Power, just because it gives you the opportunity to get all the perfects and put them into one talisman, given for half of its ability. But the fact, like, that it is a legendary talisman, I feel like kind of makes up for it. But it's still not like to a point where you put it in S tier, just because it's not like to a point where it's useful enough. Example in point with the Titanium Relic, it's another legendary talisman that gives you mining speed that I don't think is quite worthy of S tier, but it's still good enough and pretty cheap to get it, and with the amount of titanium that you'd be getting while mining, that it deserves the A tier just for the fact that it gives you so much magical power. And now we have the General's Medallion, which I like the General's Medallion. I think this deserves A tier simply because it's 1 million coins. You're naturally going to level up its damage boost while doing dungeons. And if you do enough, you can easily get percentage more damage. But of course, we got the Master Skill, which it does give you some stuff. Let me just make sure for the exact amount of the stuff. So we're just going to go and see here what it gives at max real quick. It gives you at max 10% health and 10% in strength in Master Mode dungeons. And this is actually a pretty useful ability. It is decently expensive as well for a legendary talisman. So I do think that does kind of take away from it a little bit. it, but I still think it does deserve S tier just because 10% strength and 10% health, it really goes a long way in dungeons. Like, if you get it really early, which I don't know why you would, and I don't think you can hit that early just because it's expensive, it could really just change an entire dungeon, and especially the more and more stuff that you get. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the treasure artifact, just because it takes ages to get, just for the slight bit more chance. But I'm just gonna quickly go to the actual thing here. It grants 3% extra loot to the end of done chest, and 3% loot isn't really that much, and I'm not sure if it grants like higher quality loot or just like extra like essence and stuff, which isn't that useful. Well, but then again, it is a legend talisman, but it does take forever to get, so B tier. And of course, we got the Scarred Grimoire, and the Scarred Grimoire is actually a very useful talisman. I actually think it's worth the S tier just because you can bring it to the Rift if then get a bunch of stuff in the Rift as well. Oh, but it's also just a very easy legendary talisman to get that gives you additional dungeon XP, and the more XP you get, the more percentage of that XP you get. But of course, we got the Catacombs Expert ring next, which what does this one do again? And it's right, it grants an additional dungeon experience as well, like Grimoire, or just quite a bit better, or since it's actually giving you the dungeon XP instead of the class XP. And I know I forgot to mention that when I was talking about Grimoire, but this is still pretty good. It's not quite to the point where I think it's at S tier, just because its ability is only useful in dungeons, but it's still a pretty good straight talisman. And of course, we got Auto Recombobulator. And Auto Recombobulator, it's kind of a mixed to a point where I think I'm tempted to put it in S, though I don't think it's quite deserving of S, just because I mean, it's a very high A tier simply because you can drop talismans and the Auto Recombobulator will auto recombobulate them, and you can basically get free recombobulate talisman with it, but the chances of you getting it isn't quite good enough that I think it deserves a S tier. And now we got the Kudra Follower Relic, and the problem with Kudra Follower Relic is that this is one of those talismans where it can be upgraded to legendary, but it takes so much time and so much effort that it's not really worth getting unless you plan on doing a lot of Kudra, which most people do plan to do it. So I think it is kind of worth a B since it gives the resistance against the Kudra follower stuff. So I still think that it should go into B. And with that, we get to Jake's plushie, which Jake's plushie is kind of just, again, it's a kind of a free talisman, but the fact that it does take quite a bit of time to get, just because you have to get the luck of unlocking the NPC and having luck of them coming to your garden a few times to actually get this talisman. I think it's essentially just a free talisman with just slight bit extra work. And of course, we got the Archaeologist's Compass, which again, free talisman that you get from talking to a guy in the spider's den next to the fire. Or just B or C, I'm gonna put it in C just because it's just pointless. And now we get to another super F talisman, Augur's Diamond Tooth. And while yes, another legendary talisman, this one can burn in heck. It takes way too much time. It just simply doesn't really offer that much when you get it, because Augur's Diamond Tooth gives you 4 trophy fish chance. I mean, yeah, it does give you 2 sea creature chance, but at this stage that you're going to be getting it, it's just going to be completely pointless. It's just not worth it at all, and it takes so long, and it's so annoying to get. And now moving on, we got ourselves the Soul Campfire Talisman, which this is a pretty free talisman. in which you can upgrade as you get like more progression through the game, which I think is pretty easy to get compared to its cousin of the campfire talisman. So I think this is worthy of a B tier just because it does take some resources, but it's not that expensive to get. And same with the Chia talisman. This deserves an A tier simply just because it's essentially a free epic talisman and done by doing the races in the dungeon hub that you can literally get within the first hour of you actually getting it. But then we get to the seal of the family. I don't think this is quite worthy of Super F, simply because it's pain to get all the buying from the dark auction. You can make the pain of getting this slightly easier by simply just buying the enchanted books, which means you can reduce the money that you need to spend, though it will take a hot second. So it saves itself from being a Super F just because you can reduce the amount of money and limit yourself with the amount that you choose to spend. And now we're going to get to the campfire talisman, which same thing with the soul. Well, campfire talisman, just it's slightly harder since you do need true health from the master farmer to get. It does take 1500 jungle wood to get, which does take longer than the soul campfire talisman to get. So I still think it deserves a B just because it is a legendary talisman and you can always just buy the stuff from the auction house. And same thing, we now reach the king talisman. King talisman is a free talisman. I'm trying to remember the perk for king talisman. I believe it is additional 10 hurl amount XP from commissions, which is decently useful, but it's 10. So yeah, I'm just putting it in C tier. And then we get to the chicken in talismans. There's also the fried chicken one, which is a slight upgrade to it. It's still pretty easy to get. It's essentially a free talisman from a race, but it is a rare tier, so just B. And again, a pig's foot talisman, you get it from the whatchamacallit, it's the end race. It's free talisman and gives you 1% speed. And same thing with Wolfpaw. I'm just gonna smack all three of them into B tier because they're good talismans, because they're free talismans. And I quite like free talismans. However, we get to the burn stopper or artifact. Now with the burn stopper or artifact, I believe that with this, it gives ability of, if you have an incoming hit that would do at least 50% hit of your HP, you take essentially 90% of damage, which is decent, but I mean, when are you going to be taking at least 50% of your HP? And for an epic talisman that takes so much molten powder and so much whipped magma cream, I think this deserves to go into D tier just because it is useful on the off chance that you're going to be taking over 50% of your HP, though not useful enough that I think it's going to be worth it. And of course, I keep saying and of course, but we're on to the Survivor's Cube, which Survivor's Cube, it's a good talisman. It's not like top tier. It's a free talisman you get from reaching spider level 6, or excuse me, level 7, which means you do have to spend some money from it. So I'm just going to put it at C tier simply just because you do have to spend money to actually get it, which does offset the free talisman part. And I quite like this next talisman. This is a Soulful Supercell, which it's a quite useful talisman if you ever get low on mana and you have extra Soulful to spare. Because if you just turn it on, the additional Soulful that the battery will save up will essentially allow you to use extra mana that you wouldn't really have. Of essentially giving you more mana than you actually would have just for the cost of slight Soulful. So I think this deserves an A tier. And now the Hunter Ring. The Hunter Ring and the Red Claw Ring are in the same boat here. So I'm going to rate them similarly simply because the Red Claw and Hunter Ring are got at, I'm trying to remember if it's spend level 6 and 7. And for both of them, but I'm going to put the Hunter Ring slightly lower into D tier just because it's not really as useful as the Red Claw Ring, which the Red Claw Ring is very easy to get. All you need is a lot of wolf teeth, but the problem is you need the grizzly bait for this thing, which It's not that expensive, but actually I think it does deserve C tier just because it's easy to craft. It's not that much of a hassle. And I hate the Reaper Orb. The Reaper Orb requires 8 Scythe Blades, and I might be biased because I've played a lot of Iron Man, but this talisman, if you're on Iron Man, you gotta grind so much more zombie than you realistically need to for this talisman. And for what? Slight bits of ferocity or whatever the heck the ability is? Easy F tier, even though it is legendary. And I said that I'm probably gonna put most legendaries in A tier, which I have, but it's not good enough to justify it. Runeblade Talisman is another easy talisman to get. I believe you need 72 Runeblade Talismans to make the Runeblade artifact. Like, for additional damage to stuff, it's a pretty easy talisman to get, though it does go into C, just because it can be a slight pain to get. And now we're on to the Devour Ring, which I like the Devour Ring's ability where it gives you extra health per, like, second. But of course, it is slightly expensive, which is the reason I'm not going to put in the A tier. And I think it is deserving of the B tier, because it's not too expensive to craft, and it gives a good ability, and is well balanced for its price. Yeah, wait a minute, I accidentally clicked off. And with that, we reach a couple of other talismans, in which I particularly like. But the problem with this is we also have the Handy Blood Chalice, which is an RNG drop from Voidgloom Seraphs. It's not that useful. Oh, and it does take money to get, so I'm just gonna put in D just because it's not that useful a talisman. It's annoying, and its ability doesn't make up for it. But we do have the Atmospheric Filter here, which Atmospheric Filter does give you some pretty useful perks for when you get it. And I think that does deserve A tier, even though it does take a hot second to get from Mites. Simply just because, again, it's an easy talisman to get. It gives you useful perks for when you get it. So it's just really not much worth it. And now we actually have a pretty nice talisman in that you get just simply from killing the guys in the Burning Tomb. And this is the Netherrack Looking Sunshade, which essentially protects you from dive gas if you're ever doing plays outside the Burning Tomb like I do. This is a useful talisman to have. So it deserves the B tier. Not quite the A tier, just because it's not quite that useful. Oh, and the same story with the Blood Chalice, is we have the Pocket Espresso Machine, in which I have the same situation. Its ability not that useful. Oh, and it's an RNG drop from Voidgloom Seraph, so it just goes into D tier. And now we have the Tarantula Talisman, and the ring, since there's a new one, and I forgot to grab the image for it. But this is essentially the same story. He has a Survivor Cube. You do have to do a bit of Spider Slayer for it. It is an epic talisman, but you're really just gonna get it fairly easily. So I think it deserves the B tier. And I'm sorry if I'm stumbling a little bit. It's just I've been recording all this in one take, and I know I should stop, but I can't. And now the Wolf Ring. The Wolf Ring is a pretty easy talisman you can get just by doing Sven as well. It's the same story as the Red Claw and Hunter rings, but not quite, simply just because you have to kill Old Wolf to get the Wolf Talisman, and then get the Weak Wolf Catalyst from the alpha of the wolf thingies in the Howling Cave. I'll remember the name. And for this reason, it's a pretty easy to get it, but it doesn't really provide that much use. So I think it deserves the C tier. And now we have a talisman I have never gotten, and it's the Eternal Hoof, which Eternal Hoof is a pretty easy talisman. If you're getting all these talismans manually, you will hit a Lucky Hoof, which I'm pretty sure the Eternal Hoof does give some magic find, I think. Oh wait, no, it gives you a 2% chance to find Trick or Treat chests, which isn't that useful of an ability, and the fact that it does take 8 soul fragments to make. I think that it's just fine sitting in its E tier. Just because, I mean, again, it's not quite the most useful talisman, but it's not like a bad talisman either. And that's a similar situation with the Fish Affinity artifact. Because the it's the Fish Affinity talisman, excuse me. This is one of the talismans that you can actually auto-recombobulate for free, because you're going to be naturally doing a lot of fishing in order to level up your fishing level. Also, this is one of the talismans that you're just gonna get for free pretty easily. So I think that it does, let's go in B tier. And that combined with the ability, I think it gives fishing speed or the bait chance to not use bait, which is a pretty useful ability, so we're gonna put it with there. Breathe real quick. And with this, we reach the spider artifact. It's a similar situation. It's a crafted talisman from Spider Slayer that you upgrade. Yes, and while we're at it, I'm just gonna quickly smack the zombie artifact in here as well. Oh, just because it's in the same tier as that red claw artifact and the zombie. Here, excuse me, the tarantula ring. Wait, no, it's a spider artifact. I can't talk. Shut up. It pains me to do this, but the potato talisman deserves to go in Super F, simply because the year of the pig doesn't come around too often, and the fact that it's just obnoxiously hard to get the potato talisman, where you're gonna have to do so many of the events just to get it, and the fact you have to spend money up the shiny orbs. I mean, most of the time you will get your money back, but it's just too hard to get that I just think it's worth going in Super F. It's just not that good for the amount that you get it at. It's the fact that if it was higher than a common, I probably would have put it in F, but the fact that it's a common talisman just makes it not worth it. And a similar situation with the that person talisman, it gives you buffs for amount of bats that are around you. It's not that useful. It's a similar boat to the Eternal Hoof, where it's just a C tier talisman. It's not obnoxiously hard to get in a max up. It's just not really worth the level for it, or ability for when you get it. And now we have the Blood God Crest, which the Blood God Crest I quite like. It's a free talisman in where you can spend money on it during the year of the pig to get. That gives you strength for the amount of kills that you put on it. So again, with the B tier, and the same thing with the Dante ring, it's essentially a sim situation, just different money count. And of course, we do have the event, and for every Skyblock birthday that you get, we got the balloon here. It's different some years, where the first years, I believe it was, I'm trying to remember, oh sorry, it was the crab hats, and then it was the sloth hats, and now it's just the party balloons, which is just a free talisman to get. And same thing with the Great Spoon artifact. It's a good talisman. I'm gonna put an A just because it does take some work to get, but it isn't essentially a free epic talisman in that you get for free, which does bias me. And the same situation can be said about the Prestige Chocolate Realm, of which you all you have to do is upgrade your chocolate factory, and you essentially get yourself a free legendary talisman. Unfortunately, we don't have much good things to say about the Rune Book. The Rune Book is hard to get just because you have to drop it from runic mobs, or you get it from the Sentry Raffle, which Sentry Raffle only comes around every 1.5 years, and the chance for you to get it from a runic mob isn't that good. But it does automatically upgrade itself for each amount of runic mob that you drop, so I do think it does kind of make up for it and deserve to go in the B tier. And the same thing I said about Rune Book can be said about the Sentry Ring. You get it during one event, and that event is the Sentry event, which comes around every 1.5 years, and you have to get the coins on the Sentry in order to upgrade to the ring. And for a rare talisman, it's not really worth getting. It's just bad. And then we have the, of course, Artifact of Coins right here, which can be upgraded to Relic of Coins, which I forgot to add the Relic of Coins, but we don't talk about that. And with the Artifact of Coins and Relic of Coins, means you get the upgrade from I sbelieve it was Diaz's event. It does cost some money, and the additional 0.25% coins means of scavenger that you would get from this is not really that much worth it, and especially with the coins per second that you get from the Emerald Ring, I think they deserve to go in D tier for how expensive they are. And now that takes us to the Seal Ring. And Seal Ring is a decent talisman. It doesn't really do too much, but you do get it from the Year of the Seal, which does make it slightly worse, since you also have to fish up beach balls to get the seal treats or whatever they're called from it. And I think it's a similar situation, and as like the Blood God Crescent, but it's slightly worse. even though it is a rare talisman. And so I think it deserves to go in the C tier. And now we actually have a decent talisman that's essentially free. It's the Carnival bag, which if you do all the Carnival events with the free tickets that you get every single day, you can get this on literally day one. It's essentially a free talisman, and it holds more bags, which give you slightly more buffs. And now I particularly like this next talisman. It's the Beastmaster Crest. The Beastmaster Crest gives you a bunch of good perks and can be upgraded. You can also get a bunch of good drops as you're doing like Legendary Diana from it. And I think it does deserve S tier just simply because of the additional pet XP that you can get from it. And that could go quite a long way when you're trying to level up pets that require a lot of XP, like the Jade Dragon and the Golden Dragon. And the same situation with the Seal Talisman is with the the Shark Tooth Talisman and the Razor Sharp Talisman, except it's not nearly as good as the talisman like the Beastmaster Crest, which is limited to the Marina. It's still a good talisman, and where it's pretty cheap, only requiring Fishing 24 and 4 Great White Shark Teeth, 4 Tiger Shark Teeth, and a couple other teeth. It's still a pretty cheap talisman, and a good talisman of that. But then we get to the Jerry Talisman, as in the legendary variant, which requires 81 talismans, but it's worse than the Treasure Talisman, in that the Jerry only comes around once every 3 months, and you still don't actually get all the 81 talismans in one event, and it'll take you like a couple of Jerrys, meaning it can take you over a year to get, simply because the amount of Jerry boxes that you get is like nothing, and it's not worth yeah, it's just a legendary talisman. And then yet another Mare Talisman with the Glossy Mineral Talisman, and this is actually a decent one since I think it also gives you some mining speed, but unfortunately Glossy Minerals are decently hard to get, and even though it is an epic talisman, I think it's fine being put in the C tier, because it's not the worst talisman, but it is decently hard to get. And then you got the Cake Bag. It's a free talisman that you can buy from the Baker for 250,000 coins each new year, or it goes in the easy B tier. And now we're going to move on to the Dark Auction Talismans, which, let me adjust that real quick. And we essentially got the 8 Ball, the Magic 8 Ball, the Nether Artifact, the Ender Relic. I can't remember if the Wither Relic, that's right, the Wither Relic is part of it, as well as the Hegemony Artifact. The Hegemony Artifact, easiest S tier of my life, gives you twice the amount of magical power than a normal legendary talisman. But for the 8 Ball, all Ender Relic, Nether Artifact, and Wither Artifacts, I'm going to put the Nether Artifact and the Wither Artifact in the C tier, just because they're not quite as useful of talismans compared to the Ender Relic. And the 8 Ball gives you random stats, but it's not really a talisman I ever find myself needing or using too much. And for an epic talisman that you can spend over 100 million coins on and aren't guaranteed and have to compete with other people, D tier. But the Ender Relic I'm putting in A tier, because even though it is like 300 million coins, it is something that's useful to getting faster kills of Enderman Slayer, because then you can just do it mindlessly and not have to worry about dying so much. And with the Moonglade Artifact, it's a pretty nice talisman as well. Oh, it does give you some big, again, Mangrove Fortune, though it's a talisman that you're naturally going to be getting as you progress through forging and be doing a bunch of contests. And for only about 45 coupons, I think this is an easy B tier. And of course, we get on to the Ring of Love, which normally would be pretty high since it's a pretty free talisman, but I'm going to move it down to C tier just because you do need a flower minion and a tuxedo for it, and those are decently expensive items, and it does take some time to actually get that, or you're really sickly going to spend a amount of time, especially given the fact that you're going to compete with like 50 different people who are going to want this as well. Oh, but then you also got Melody's Hair. This is another free epic talisman that you can literally get in under an hour. It does take some practice to do Melody's Harp, but it's still pretty easy. And of course, we got the Junk Artifact next, which the fun part about the Junk Artifact is that, again, you'll get natural progression of fishing, And you can do it at literally any time, and you literally get a junk sinker that makes this a lot more manageable. Also, I think it's B tier talisman. And the bucket of die is kind of annoying since you don't have like obnoxious amount of options. And you can realistically get this like day one if you want to buy he like seasonal dies. But if you don't want to spend gems, it's still pretty easy to get. It's like the chocolate prestige where you can buy it from the shop up at the chocolate factory, but it's not nearly as good as the prestige chocolate realm. In the fact that it's a rare talisman, and you have to give it to the artist. So I'm gonna put it solely at B. Wait, did I put couldnt follower artifact here again? I did. Why did I put the couldnt follower artifact here again? Either way. Hey, but now we get another seasonal talisman that you can only get once a year. With the gift talismans, which you do need a golden gift to get the highest tier, and this isn't obnoxiously hard to get, though I will put it in C tier simply just because it's only available for 1 month out of the year, and if you don't get the golden gift on Iron Man during that time, you're gonna have to wait another year. But of course, more free talisman times where you have the Trapper Crest, which you can only get during Finnegan, though it does upgrade itself automatically if you do get a particular amount of pelts during Finnegan, and where it upgrades from uncommon to uncommon from common, which I think deserves a B tier. It's not that painful a talisman to get, it's pretty painless. Chumming talisman, they recently nerfed it so that it requires 32 full chum buckets, which requires quite a bit of time, and if you don't have a person to put all the chum in those buckets, don't take it out of context, please, but if you don't have it, it will take a while for you to get it, so I think it would just put in C tier, just because it's not the best. And with the Jacobus Register, you have to spend like 48 mil for this. This is a pretty easy talisman to get, but it's not. But the fact that I have to spend some money does take away from it being a legendary talisman. But with Bingo, I'm sorry to the Bingo players, but this goes into Super F. It is an epic talisman. It takes so long to get it, and for what? You get like nothing from it but an epic talisman. And unlike something like the candy relic right here, which all you have to do is spend like 1,000 purple candies on it, but it makes it easier to get candies from events if you're trying to get higher tier or rarities of candy in the thing to get the Skyblock XP. It at least makes it easier, and it's a legendary talisman, though of course it does take some time to get, so it goes in B tier. The Bat Talisman is the Bat Artifact is one of the freest legendary talismans that you're gonna see out there. Giving that you only need to spend like what, 64 purple, 64 or greens on it, and you can hit Bat Talisman pretty fairly easy. It goes in S tier just because it's so easy to get. It's a breeze. And the same thing with Jungle Amulet. You do need 4 Jungle Hearts and some Sludge Juice, but it's still pretty easy to get. It doesn't really give too much, but it's still a free uncommon talisman. And now we're moving on to the Abbey cases. I just used the one that first popped up for the image, but the Abbey cases actually go into A to S tier just because you could get additional contacts. It's based on the amount of stuff that you have in your Abbey phone, as well as additional magical power based on the amount of contacts in your phone. Which is a very good thing for something that you do have to spend bets on. Though I think it's well worth it, given the additional magic fun. And then same thing with Bits Talisman, however, I'm going to put it in B tier just because it only doubles your bits, it's not that good. And now we move on to the Pest Hunter artifact and Anita's artifact. Anita's artifact, you do need to spend 2 golds on it. And for the additional 25 farming fortune buff that you only get during the contests, I think that it should put it in the C tier here compared to the Pest Hunter artifact, which gives you a whopping 60% chance to get additional pests, and the fact that you're going to get it whenever you collect a lot of pests, and given that you get a lot of pests when you go offline, it's essentially a free epic talisman. And you know how I feel about free epic talisman. I'm just going to put in B tier just because it does take more time to get than the other free epic talismans. And now the Scavenger artifact. Again, additional 2.5 coins in the same case is where you get from the shins or whatever the heck it is, the auction during Diaz is so same as the coin artifact and emerald artifact. Like, but of course, we now move to another seasonal artifact, which typically you could get the intimidation in Talisman from the adventure in the hub for 10,000 coins, and then get it upgraded to the artifact with 128 green candies and purple candies during the spooky. But the fact that you do need to get the stuff from the seasonal spooky event, it does make it's slightly bad, but its ability does make up for it, where you do get certain tiers of mobs who ignore you, which are nice. And now we move on to the very free and very cheap talismans of the Mine Affinity Talisman, the whatever the heck this is. I think it's the Village Talisman and the Skeleton Talisman. You just buy it from the Adventure in the Hub for a good amount of coins. And now we have the Healing Ring, which gives you some additional vitality. It's not too expensive. It's pretty cheap. So I'm going to be putting it in the B tier as well. Oh, just because I like the ability, it's not really outstanding, though it's pretty cheap. And now we have the Sea Creature artifact, which does take 64 Enchanted Sponge, which does take a hot second to get. And it's pretty indecently expensive because of the price of sponges, and its ability isn't like the best, but it's not like the worst either, so it's a solid C tier. And now we're on to the Spiked Atrocity. It truly lives up to its name, and the fact that you need to get obnoxious amount of squidding for it. And on Iron Man, it is absolute pain, and it doesn't really give you that much. It's not like obnoxiously bad, but at least is something you can buy off the auction house and is easier to get. So I'm gonna put it in D tier. Pressure Talisman and the Fishbowl Talisman are two talismans that you just can get while doing a lot of foraging, but they are slightly worse than the Moonglade Talisman, where you actually have to grind your resources at it. But I'm gonna put the Fishbowl into B tier and the Pressure Talisman is C tier, because grinding sea loomies does require additional pressure resistance, which is annoying to get it if you don't have it. And Wood Fairy Talisman is another foraging talisman that is very easy to get. It doesn't take too long. You just need a particular collection of wood, which if you get in storages, it takes like 2 seconds to get. And the Magma Talisman and the Fire Talisman are pretty good talismans, again, and pretty cheap talismans, just requiring the collection to get them, so we can just smack them into B tier. And now we're on to two of my favorite talismans, of the Personal Deleter and the Personal Compactor 7000s. And now these are pretty hard to get if you're like early game Iron Man, but they are well worth it. They're two of the best talismans in my opinion, because the Personal Deleter keeps unnecessary crap that you don't want in your inventory, and the Personal Compactor compacts items to an enchanted form, saving you a ton of time from having to compact items that you would otherwise have to. And as a person who has played the game before this existed, this is one of the best quality of life talismans, if not the best quality of life talisman in the entire game. Moving on until the Gravity Talisman. Gravity Talisman, same thing, collection. And with Obsidian, you can mine the Ender nodes, and get the collection and just buy the Obsidian from the merchant in the end really quickly. And of course, with the Day and Night Crystal, they do have decent buffs. It's still nice that you have 2 crystals that, again, just get the collection, get the 2 enchanted quartz blocks, which is like nothing, and then you just get a free 10 strength whenever you're playing. And Magnetic Talisman is another talisman in that you just get the collection from our collection. It takes 10 seconds, but it's a decent uncommon talisman. And now we're kind of just in the point of just get the collection and get the stuff. I'm just now realizing I probably put... Oh wait, no, that's right, I did. But we also have the Experience Artifact. It's a pretty easy talisman. You just need 9 enchanted lapis blocks. Like I said, it's essentially free epic talisman for like 1,000,000 coins. So it goes a solid B tier. And same with Haste Artifact. If you're getting all the super compactors yourself, you can just mine all the enchanted cobblestone. It's a piece of cake. It's a simple... epic talisman. And again, we're just gonna breeze through a few of these talismans where you just get the collection and get the item. Farmer Orb, you just need 8 enchanted pumpkins and enchanted glowstone block. Huck goes in B tier. For speed artifact, you can get it easily while farming a lot of sugarcane. It does require some of it, and it can be slightly pain, but it's not enough of a pain to take it away from free tier of B. And same thing with Potion Affinity artifact. It's just essentially a free talisman. And same with Feather artifact. If you're getting going for a lot of enchanted eggs, it's just so easy to get, and you can just put it on there. And same with the piggy bank. It does prevent some of your coins from you losing it if you ever die. It's a very useful talisman that people really underestimate its usefulness. Just in case you're like stupid and didn't forget to equip another cookie buff. And night vision talisman, not really useful, but free talisman, B tier. And vaccine artifact does take some time to get it for the poison samples and arachne things, but again, essentially free. Farm talisman, you get under an hour. And now we're on to the final 2 talismans, which I forgot to put in there. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, as it does help out the channel a lot. And of course, Discord link in below if you want to join that 20 million coin giveaway. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day today, and we'll see you guys next time.